Welcome to Percy's Park. Percy, the park keeper, works hard looking after the park and his animal friends who live there. But Percy still likes to find time for some fun and games. And of course, in Percy's Park, there's always time for a story. After the storm. Percy, the park keeper, couldn't sleep. Outside his hut, there was a great storm raging, with thunder and lightning and pouring rain. Percy wasn't frightened by the thunder, and he loved watching the lightning as it lit up the whole park. He didn't even mind the rain. But there was one thing Percy didn't like. He didn't like the wind. It blew down fences in the park and ripped branches off of trees. He didn't like that one bit. "Oh dear," he sighed as he watched from his window. The wind tugged at the trees, making them creak and groan. "It looks like I'm going to be busy tomorrow." He pulled his pillow over his head and he tried to get to sleep. Percy was up early in the morning. The wind had stopped and the sky was clear. Percy loaded up his wheelbarrow with all the things he would need to make repairs and clear up after the storm. Then he set off to inspect the damage. He felt happy as he took deep breaths of the fresh, clean air. Perhaps the damage wouldn't be too bad. But he was wrong. Something dreadful had happened. A great big old oak tree that had stood by itself on top of a little hill had been blown over by the storm. The giant tree had been one of Percy's favourites. Now it looked very sad lying on its side with its mass of tangly roots sticking up into the air. But it wasn't just one of Percy's favourite trees. Some of Percy's animal friends lived there. Now their homes were wrecked. Percy hurried up to the fallen tree. The animals were gathered by the tree, looking cross and unhappy. When they saw Percy, everyone started talking at once. Quiet! Percy sat down with his friends and listened as they told how the storm had brought down the great tree. "And now we have nowhere to live," said the badger. "Some of us lived in the tree and some of us lived under it, but we're all homeless now." Some of the rabbits looked close to tears, and the fox was very sniffy. Percy passed him a handkerchief, and the fox blew his nose. Percy stood up. "We'll just have to find you somewhere else to live," he said. "Come on, everybody, jump into my wheelbarrow." The animals felt better now that Percy was with them. First he took them to the pine wood, but nobody wanted to live there. "It's too dark," squeaked the mice. "Too gloomy," said the hedgehog. So Percy took them to the shrubbery, but nobody wanted to live in the shrubbery either. "There's no big trees," complained the squirrels. "No big roots," moaned the rabbits. Never mind, said Percy. We'll try across the stream. Percy began to push the heavy wheelbarrow over a little bridge that crossed the stream. But as he got to the middle of the bridge, two things happened. Percy stumbled, and the wheelbarrow decided to see what it would be like to be a boat. Suddenly, Percy and his friends found themselves drifting downstream to where the stream opened up out into a lake. Percy stood up and looked around. "We'll have a paddle back to the shore," he said. But then something caught his eye. "No, wait," said Percy. "Let's paddle across to the other side of the lake. I have an idea." The animals looked puzzled. What was Percy up to? Slowly, they paddled the wheelbarrow across the lake. "Here we are," said Percy. The squirrels jumped ashore and tied up the wheelbarrow to the roots of an enormous hollow tree that grew by the water's edge. "Now, this is my plan," said Percy. Everyone gathered round as Percy explained his idea. "Is everybody clear?" Everybody nodded. "Then let's get to work." They began unloading all of Percy's tools and the planks of wood from the wheelbarrow. Then Percy explained exactly what he wanted each one of the animals to do. He showed the badger how to saw and showed the squirrels how to knock in the nails. The fox drilled holes and the rabbits screwed in screws. The mice were kept busy fetching and carrying for everyone else. At lunchtime, they took a short break to share some of Percy's peanut butter sandwiches. Then they got busy again. At long last, their work was finished. A very tired Percy stood back to admire his handiwork. Now the squirrels had a brand new home. And so did the mice. The rabbits had a new home, and so did Badger, and the fox, and the hedgehog. In fact, every one of Percy's friends had a fine new place to live. "Well done, everybody," said Percy. "This is the best treehouse I've ever seen." "What about you, Percy?" called the badger. "Aren't you joining us?" Percy smiled. "I think I'll stick to my old hut," he said. "Besides," said Percy, taking an acorn out of his pocket, "I still have one job left to do back at the little hill." I hope you enjoyed the story. Now, Mr. Guy's got some strange things that he wants to show you. I wonder if it'll help you remember some of Percy's animal friends who live with him at the park. Let's have a go. Can you hop around like this animal? Can you guess what creature this is? Normally, we have big, bushy tails and we like scampering up a tree. This animal calls its home a den. How fantastic! Could you pretend to be this animal? And maybe there was a few of these insects living in the tree as well. Blah.